Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Startup Boston podcast, where I interview entrepreneurs, investors, and influencers in the Boston startup community to uncover actionable advice and stories from their experiences. I'm your host, Nick Dupuy. In today's episode, I sit down with Mo Plassnig, co-founder and CEO of Codeship. Originally from Austria, Mo moved to Boston to join Techstars in 2013. Codeship started as a side project for him and his co-founder, after noticing that companies were having a difficult time rolling out changes in their software fast enough. After picking up enough paying customers, Mo and his co-founders transitioned to Codeship full-time to provide customers with support. Codeship allows software developers to bring their products to market faster by rolling out changes to applications and checking for bugs automatically. In this episode, a few things Mo shares are the importance of listening to customer feedback, the difference between entrepreneurship in Europe and the US, the challenges and advantages of having a remote team, and how selling to larger companies differs from selling to startups. Also, this week in the book giveaway, I'm giving away The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. This book is based off the idea that great companies can fail because they do everything right. Clayton proves this with stories and explains how to avoid it. Clayton talks about disruptive innovation and the set of rules to capitalize on it. Since this is a podcast focused on startups, I really think that this book can be helpful to not only founders, but people who work at startups as well. To enter into the giveaway, make sure you subscribe and leave a review of the podcast on iTunes. If you've already done this, then you're already entered. Also, by subscribing, you'll get all of my new episodes right on your podcast app as soon as they're released. Enjoy today's episode. Mo, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Before we get started, can you give us a little info about your background?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Mo. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Codeship, based here in Boston. I'm originally from Austria, so moved here to build Codeship a couple of years ago.
What did you do before Codeship?
Yeah, so I founded another company that was in a very different space where we actually tried to enable entrepreneurship in Europe. So we run a lot of events across Europe, also in Austria, where I'm from originally, to basically create or help to create more startups, because there is a big lack, unfortunately, in Europe, in my opinion, of entrepreneurial culture, and we try to change that.
Why do you think there's a lag?
I think it's just a cultural thing. I think people in Europe, for whatever reason, are not that much thinking about building their own company. I think if I look back, I never thought about it when I was younger, when I went to school. It's simply not an option that people talk a lot about. It's people focus a lot about getting a job or getting more staying in school and get better education and then get a job, but it's not that there is another career path which could mean building your own business. And I think it's also because there are not a lot of role models right now in Austria or other European countries. If you think of well-known entrepreneurs, most of them that we all know, they're all in the US, and I think that plays a big role, unfortunately. So I think the more people you have in your local ecosystem that build something from the ground and openly talk about it and support new entrepreneurs, the more people will think about starting their own company.
So how did you identify the need for a company like Codeship?
Yeah, so I think there were a couple of reasons. I think one was that in the company I did before, where I met one of my co-founders, and we were in contact with a lot of startups, with technology companies, and what we saw across the board, small and large companies, is that they all struggle with rolling out their software and changes in their software fast enough. And that was not surprising, but still, I think we were surprised how much people struggled, because I think in 5 years ago, everybody was already talking about you have to move fast. There's if you are a technology company, if you don't move fast, there will be a competitor who will perform better because they're simply faster in bringing their products to market, in iterating over them, in making them better. And so that was one interesting data point. And then we also knew from our own experience and then talking with other developers, friends of ours, that the existing tooling back then, 5 years ago, was not very good, especially after what now is very obvious, I think, to everybody, that shift to the cloud, where a lot of the workloads and a lot of the tooling in the software industry moved to the cloud. And the tooling a couple of years ago was not really built for that ecosystem where you use tools like GitHub or Amazon Web Services. The tools people used for testing and rolling out software were still built for a different ecosystem where you were used to run your own servers for that, maintain your own servers. And so I think that was also very important. So I think it was a mix of, okay, we saw the problem on our own, existing tooling was not good, and then that overall shift in the market towards cloud software, continuous delivery, continuous integration.
So what is a continuous delivery platform?
Yeah, so what Codeship does is, at the end of the day, very simple. We basically enable software development teams, software developers to bring their products to market faster. So we help them to roll out changes in their applications. We make sure that there are no bugs in it. So we test all the changes they make to ensure that the software really works as the developer envisioned the software to work. And that allows them to pretty much roll out changes in their software whenever they want. So they don't have to manually test all the changes anymore. They can, when they finish developing a feature, pretty much go to Codeship and roll it out immediately, which gives them a lot of advantages. And the most important one is that they can get whatever cool feature they develop to their customers immediately. And then the customer immediately experiences the value and the customer can feedback. And so what happens eventually is that those teams are faster in developing better software and building better products. It's basically the foundation of what you maybe know, like with the whole lean startup movement, where you iterate, test, build the prototype, get feedback, and then improve it and iterate over it. Continuous delivery is the technical foundation to do that.
How many different developers use your platform today?
More than 20,000 is, I think, the last number we officially announced. It's more by now, but more than 20,000 across the world. So we have customers in 70 plus countries, a couple of thousand customers. So lots of developers, which is pretty cool.
How much time can companies save by using a product like yours?
Yeah, I think it really depends on their workflow and how good or bad their workflow was before they started using Codeship. So our larger customers, more like traditional companies, they like went from, all right, we roll out changes in our software like once a month, and we wait for that one day where we put everything together and roll it out. They went from that to doing it a couple of times every week, or even like multiple times per week. So I think for them it's a really like big improvement. But then if you look at like startups or technology companies that were already more forward thinking before they started using us, they were maybe already doing it several times per day, but they decided to use Codeship over another product because it's slightly faster or offers other features that other products are not offering. And for them, being able to roll out changes just a few minutes faster was as important as for a large company. It was important to go from like once a month to 8 times a month.
Have you found any of your customers using your product in a way that you maybe didn't expect at first?
Yes, for sure. I think in good and bad ways. So, and I think the interesting part of building a product for developers is that you're using your own product all the time, and you think about your product in a certain way. And then the more customers you get, the more open-minded you have to be to accept that there are other workflows out there, other people do things differently, and you can be very opinionated, and you maybe can build your product in a way where you prefer a certain workflow, but then you have to accept that other companies in different industries or companies with a different size simply need something different, and that is, I think, very important to understand. So it's important to understand that you not just build a product for yourself, but for all the developers out there. And then, so I think that's the good part. I think the bad part is when like somebody tried to use our product in a fraudulent way, or like try to mine bitcoins or other bullshit. bullshit. That happens, I think, if more and more people know you and then try to like do things that they are not supposed to do. But I think it's our job to make sure that they can't do that. So all good.
Why did you want to make I think a lot of dev tools are command line based, right? So why did you want to make something that has a GUI on it?
Yeah, I think it's not the one or the other. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's just a user interface, and whether it's a command line tool or like Codeship, where you go to codeship.com and you have a graphical interface. I think it makes no difference. I think it depends on the use case. Both things have different advantages and disadvantages, and now we have a command line tool that our customers can download, and then we still have codeship.com with our interface that probably more people know. So I think there is no like the one is better than the other. It really depends on the use case.
Yeah, and their preference, so they can use the command line base if they want to.
Yeah, and then I think there are simply like certain components where a website makes more sense. If you talk about, for example, showing statistics, graphs, and where you really try to visualize something, I think you can argue that it's better to do that in the browser. So I think it really depends on what exactly you try to achieve with that specific user interface.
So you said that you have over 20,000 developers using your tool. What has been the largest driver of growth for you?
I think at the end of the day, what matters the most is still a simple, very simple, but still powerful product, because that is what matters to the developer at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter how large a customer is and like how much hierarchy there is in their company and that they have a different purchasing process. At the end of the day, who matters the most are the developers. So I think providing them with a simple product was key. I think on top of that, what worked well for us was that we always shared a lot of the knowledge we gained through building Codeship. So we have a very active blog and try to contribute to the developer community through publishing a lot of blog posts about certain technical topics, tutorials, and that certainly also helped because a lot of people, I think, know us because of that.
So how important is it to you to share that knowledge with the development community?
I think it's very, very important. I think it's how we are, and we always did that since the very first day. We thought that, our experience was that we learned a lot from other people who shared their mistakes and best practices with us, and we try to do the same now. So we do a lot of blog posts, we do webinars, ebooks, but we also still meet a lot of people and just talk with them about what worked for us, what didn't work. So I think we in general just try to be very helpful and share our knowledge because other people did the same, and that is why we are where we are now.
What are some of the largest changes that you've made since launching?
Whoa, I think we made a lot of changes. I mean, it feels like that we're doing Codeship for quite a while, although it's only a few years. So I think it's all a big blur, and we've definitely made a lot of changes. I think one of the biggest changes that we did right in the beginning was we changed our name once. So we were initially called Rails on Fire because we initially built the product for Ruby on Rails, so one specific programming language. And after that worked very well, we changed the name so that people are not confused and that people know that they can also use us if they use Java or PHP or other technologies. So that was definitely a big change because we like everybody, not everybody, but some people already knew us with a certain name, and changing that and changing the brand and the whole design was certainly a big thing for us back then. And then I think another more recent change was that we launched our Docker support, which was definitely a very big achievement for us because we did it in a very, very good way where we really tried to listen closely to what the customers want and build a system that really fulfills their requirements. And we baked in a lot of the things we learned over the last couple of years. So it was basically a chance for us to build something again from the ground up in a very, very good way. So that was super exciting.
Is there anything that you would do differently if you were to do it over again?
I think there are a lot of like tiny things for sure. I think every day we still do things that where we the next day say, okay, we maybe should have done it differently, because you get better and better every day. But I think the probably biggest thing that I would do differently is I think we did Codeship on the side for a while when we initially started, and I think that was good on the one hand, because you can argue that we tried it out, we saw that other people out there like it, are willing to pay for it, and then we jumped on it full time to be able to provide them with the support they need. I think that's the positive way to look at it. I think a more negative way of looking at it is that we simply wasted time and could have done it full time earlier, and therefore could have built a better product sooner and could have supported our customers better. And so now I think if I would do something again, I would simply be more confident in the feedback we get from customers, because we got the feedback very early on that we are doing something that is very valuable, but we still were maybe afraid of going all in.
Why do you think you were afraid of going all in? It's just the uncertainty that provides?
Yes, maybe that. And then I think also that goes maybe back to what we talked about in the beginning with Europe and the difference that we have in Europe in terms of entrepreneurial mindset. And I think we were, unfortunately, because of where we grew up, I think more focused on what could go wrong. And a lot of people we talked to back then were very focused on telling us what could go wrong. Versus after we moved here, I think a lot of people were very, very confident in what we are doing and told us openly that apparently we are doing a lot of things right, and encouraged us to try more. And I think that you need that message from time to time, because it's not easy to start something from the ground. I think what helped us was listening to our customers, because that's the reason why we are building the company and building the product, and that always keeps us motivated. But then sometimes I think it helps if other people are telling you as well, especially in the beginning.
At what point did you stop doing it on the side and then jump into it full time?
I think it was 3.5 years ago. Yeah, I think at the end of 2012, after we got our very first customer, and then we decided to move to the US once we figure out how to do that. And I think since then it's moving way faster, which is good.
And so right now you have a team here in Boston, you have a team in Vienna, right? So what is it like having, running a company that has two locations like that? What are some of the difficulties that?
Yeah, so how we look at it is, we think we have a team in Boston, and then we have a lot of people remote, because we have people in Vienna, we have people in Berlin, and then all over the US. And how we try to build the company is that we are focused on being remote, and that whatever we do has to work, especially for everybody in the team who is remote. So we try to get better and better and be more and more remote friendly, and don't even differentiate anymore between you're in Vienna or you're in Berlin or in any other city. It doesn't matter if you're just one person there or three people. And I think it's great. I think you can build a very successful company with a remote team. I think it's certainly challenging as well, but once you figure it out and once you understand what the advantages are, for example, you get really good and really interesting people to work for you that we otherwise couldn't have got, because they are simply not in Boston or Vienna if you would have stayed there. once you understand that that's the big advantage, and you have to sacrifice maybe on a couple of other things, like you can't just get everybody together in the same room and brainstorm something. You have to think about, okay, there's somebody on the West Coast, which is 3 hours time difference there, and then we have people in Europe that's 6 hours there, so you have to coordinate everything a little bit better, you have to document everything a little bit better, you have to communicate better, because you can't just like communicate things over a cup of coffee or grabbing lunch. I think once you understand all those small things, I think it's great. And I think if we have more people remote in the future, it would only be better for us. So,
how do you go about building a company culture with a remote team?
Yeah, what is very important in our opinion is that you still meet face to face regularly. So right now, for example, one of our engineers who is working from Texas for us is here for a week in Boston. So we try to really have everybody in Boston regularly. And then we also try to bring either the whole company together. We will probably do that later this year, or at least parts of it. So for example, our support team will be working out of Boston for a week at the end of August. Our engineering team did that back in February, and we'll do that again in September in Vienna. So I think we do a lot of that, and that certainly helps a lot, because otherwise, and you can do a lot of things online, but I think really getting to know people, especially getting to know people personally and building a true relationship with your peers, I think that's only possible if you meet them in person every couple of months.
I want to talk a little bit about enterprise customers. So how does your marketing efforts towards enterprise customers differ from that for smaller companies and startups?
Yeah, I think it's different, and then still very similar though, because I think, again, who matters the most is the developer. I think we're in a very lucky position where developers, even in large companies, can influence the buying decision of their company in terms of their tooling to a high degree. So if a developer or a group of developers, a team of developers in a large company wants to use Codeship, they will advocate for it. They will talk to everybody internally to make sure that they eventually figure out like the business side and the commercial aspect and purchase Codeship. So I think that is very, very good, because that allows us to be very focused on the developer. And so what we do, for example, content-wise, there is not a big difference if you are a developer in a small company or in a large company. I think there are different problems those people face, and therefore we create different types of content. But at the end of the day, it's still an engineer. So I think on the marketing side, it works very, very well. I think the more challenging piece is to really understand how sales can help. Because it's not just the developers anymore in a small company. It's not like just one engineer putting in the credit card. Once you get to a certain size and once a lot of developers in a large organization want to use Codeship, we have to talk with that company about other things. We have to explain them why we are secure. And it's not just the developers who have to believe that, but also other people in the company. We have to figure out the commercial aspect of that whole deal, where price matters, where other factors matter. And so making sure that we have sales involved there definitely helped us a lot, because we acquired the majority of our customers in the past without doing any sales, and just through doing great marketing, building a great product, and that certainly changed.
How important was Parallel CI in helping you grow and attract enterprise customers?
Yeah, so Parallel CI is a feature of ours that allows our customers to run their tests faster. And what that means is that if their tests run faster, their developers know sooner whether a change is working or not. And if it's working, they can roll it out to their customers faster again. So it decreases the time you need to get feedback. It increases your velocity as a software development team. And so that was definitely key for especially larger customers, because the larger an organization is, a customer is, the more complex probably are also their applications. And the more complex their applications are, the longer the tests run and the longer the engineers have to wait. And so parallel CI helped us a lot there, because it provides so much value to those customers that it's an, I think, even easier decision to purchase Codeship.
Is continuous integration, does that differ at the enterprise level than at the small company level, or is it similar?
It's certainly different, or it's different, I think, in different ways. There's the technology aspect. So again, a small company, maybe a startup founded 2 years ago, a couple of developers, or maybe even 10, 20 developers, they probably use only newer technologies. They understand like modern day software development best practices. I think we explain what we do in a different way, and they also understand it probably better than in a more traditional company, a larger company. You probably, and what we are seeing is a lot of technologies that are older, to put it that way. They have definitely more complex requirements because their applications grew over time and grew and grew and grew, and then they maybe acquired another company and they put together two products into one, and then so everything got more and more complex, and you can see that obviously on the technical level as well. So I think that's one aspect, the technology, and then also the people aspect, I think, is very different, because in a small company it's probably the developer or the technical co-founder who just puts in the credit card and purchases, and then in a large company there's far more hierarchy and everything. So I think the way how the customer purchases is different, but then also the way how they think about CI internally, because it's not just one team anymore, it's maybe multiple teams, and they still all want to use Codeship, but they have different technical requirements, and then different people work in different teams, and to make all that work in a single platform is certainly challenging, but also very interesting.
How does support work at Codeship? Is it the engineers and developers providing support, or do you have a separate support team?
So what we did in the beginning was everybody did support, and that worked well. I think it's a very good idea if you get started, because everybody at the company is very close to the customer, fully understands the pain a customer is going through, because you have not nailed the product experience yet. Now, because we have so many customers, we have people who are dedicated to doing support. They are engineers, but they do nothing else than helping our customers, maybe writing a documentation article, writing a blog post, a tutorial, but especially helping our customers to succeed. And we found that the best possible way to help our customers, and is also a better experience for everybody at the team, because it's simply hard, in our opinion, for an engineer to jump on a couple of tickets and then go back and code, and then you haven't finished what you actually want to do, but the customer needs help again, and those context switches are very distracting and challenging, and then you end up being less productive. So I think having people who are focused on support, are recognizing the pattern in the problems, are therefore faster in helping, is key. I think what you have to make sure, and what works well for us, is that you have a very good feedback loop to make sure that everybody else in the team is still aware of the issues that our support team is seeing, and so that the rest of the company doesn't lose contact with our customers. And that works good so far, and everybody's still talking a lot to customers through other channels. So
before you took place in Techstars, you knew that you wanted to relocate here to Boston. Mm-hmm. So what was it that attracted you here?
Yeah, so we decided that we are going to move to the US for a variety of reasons. And back then we already had customers here. We had more customers in the US than anywhere else, and that's still true. So that was one very big argument. And A lot of the other companies in our space are here. A lot of the thought leaders, a lot of potential mentors were here. So it was clear for us that we have to move to the US or want to move to the US if we truly want to build Codeship and focus on what is best for Codeship. And there were basically two cities back then, in our opinion. One is San Francisco, which is pretty obvious, and then Boston. And the reason why we moved to Boston was, and that is still very true, it was the better setup for us with having people in Europe because of time difference. So it's just, I think it's nearly impossible to truly collaborate from the West Coast with people in Europe because 9 hours time difference makes it very challenging. 6 hours is still possible. So that was one big argument. Then we were able to do Techstars here, which allowed us to just move to the US faster, get to know people faster. I think we didn't have to worry about a lot of things that you have to worry about when you move to a different continent for the very first time. And that allowed us to do that faster and focus on building the product, which was key to us. And then with that in mind, plus the time zone difference, I think it was the better choice back then. And once we were here, there was no reason that we moved somewhere else again, because we met a lot of people here, built a network here, hired people here, and I think you can build very successful businesses outside of San Francisco.
Why did you decide to take part in Techstars in 2013?
Yeah, that was very simple. It was, I think, and Techstars is pretty well known as a good brand, and all of that. But I think what mattered the most for us is that we thought that we can move to the US and be successful here faster with their help than without their help. Because we didn't know anybody here. We didn't have a network in the US. We didn't know how we can find good people to hire. I think you have to figure out a lot of cultural differences. You have to fully understand the legal setup here, raising money and all of that. So I think Techstars was very helpful in a lot of ways, and helped us to figure out a lot of things in the 3 months where we did Techstars, and that would have otherwise cost us probably 6 months to 9 months to figure out. So It was totally worth it.
What was that whole experience like for you?
I think it was very good. I mean, what I like about Techstars is that they have a very hands-on approach where you meet a lot of people, you get very well connected in the local community, which I think is great, which helps you a lot with hiring. You meet a lot of like-minded people who can help you and coach you. You're more than just one more startup that is going through a random accelerator. I think that is really what made Techstars in Boston very, very special.
What would you say was the biggest lesson you were able to take away from it?
I think working closely with other really good startups helped us the most, because you were seeing that they were doing very well one day and then struggling on a different day. And I think just knowing that and experiencing that helps you to stay focused on your business when it feels like everything is going perfectly well, and you stay focused on the fundamentals. And then it also helps you when you have a bad day or a bad week, because you know that and you saw that it happens to everybody, and it's just a natural way of building a company that you have ups and downs.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to participate in an accelerator program?
I think you should ask yourself if it's really a good idea, because I think accelerator programs are very hyped, and a lot of people talk about Y Combinator, Techstars, and all those other programs. I think it's not necessarily a good thing if you do it. I think you have to truly understand what you get, what you don't get, and then make a call. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a program that maybe distracts you because you actually should do other things for your business at that particular point of time. It also costs you equity in your company, so I think you really have to think rationally about it and always focus on what is best for your customer. I also think that a lot of the programs out there are simply not good, and there's for whatever reason a pretty large number of accelerator programs out there in the wild, and I think there are only a few good ones that like Techstars that you should consider, and then talk to the people who are running that program, talk to people who did it to really figure out if they can help you.
So I want to congratulate you on raising your $7 million, which you just finished. So what was your reason for raising that money? What do you plan to accomplish with it?
Yeah, I think very simple. I think building a better product faster for our customers. That's in a nutshell why we did it. And because we felt that we have a pretty big opportunity, and already a lot of customers, and already a really great and growing team, but we still didn't feel being fast enough. And it simply hurts a lot if you constantly have to tell customers or potential customers that you can't do that for them, you can't support X, Y, and Z. No, that's on the roadmap. We don't do it. We don't have it now. It's not available yet. We can't tell you when, because you have so many things to do. And I think more money doesn't necessarily mean that you will do better there, but I think if you spend the money wisely, it allows you to hire really good people, and really good people build really good products eventually, and then your customers will benefit from that.
What advice would you give to another founder that's trying to raise money or wants to raise money?
Focus on building a company, and I think then funding happens.
Will come by itself.
Yeah, I know not come by itself, but I think it's not. You don't raise money for the sake of raising money. I think raising money is not necessarily something positive. I think there is a way that it's very hyped in like the startup tech media, and TechCrunch probably writes a lot about funding and most funded startups, and they raised another large round and unicorns and whatsoever. I think funding can make sense, and I think for certain businesses it's a necessity because you need that capital, because you're maybe building like hardware, and you have to spend money up front. But I think it's not necessarily a good thing, and you should really ask yourself if you need it, how much you need, from whom you need it, what else you want to get apart from the money from your future investors, because you will, once you got them, they will be with you for a very long time. So I think you should really closely evaluate the people and then I think if you do all of that and build something that creates value for the customers, a lot of things will fall into place, and then I think you can figure out all the details around raising money easily, because that then suddenly gets very easy.
I want to move now into our rapid fire questions. So rapid fire questions, not necessarily rapid fire answers. So first question: what's another startup in Boston that you're most excited about?
Billback is one. We did Techstars with them, and I think they are very, very successful and pretty far along. And I think it's again amazing to see if you know them personally and if you know where they were and they were sitting in the same room 2-3 years ago and where they are now. I think it's awesome. So that would be one. I think HelpScout would be another company because they're doing very well product wise. Great content marketing, great team, great remote culture. So another role model for sure.
What are some of your favorite tools that help make your life and work easier?
Oh, that's a hard question. I think right now Amazon Echo, because it just changed how I do things at home, because I just talk with that device and then things magically happen and then magically order an Uber. I think I like it a lot, and I think I hope, my assumption is it makes me more productive. So I guess it makes my life easier, but maybe I'm also just too excited about new technology stuff.
What do you use it for the most?
I try to use it for nearly everything I used my phone before, like setting a timer, looking up something on the internet, figuring out like what the weather is on the weekend, ordering an Uber, adding stuff to a to-do list, shopping list, ordering things on Amazon. So I'm probably a power user.
What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I don't know. I think I'm still so young I hope. So I'm 27, so that's just 7 years. And I think that's not enough time to reflect what I should have done differently, because it feels like there are a lot of things. I mean, I certainly regret some things, but then again, I think that you are the sum of your experiences. So I would be a different person if I wouldn't have done certain things, and I'm pretty happy right now.
What's something about you that most people don't know?
Well, on a podcast, I guess that's an easy answer because people, I think, don't know a lot about me apart from what I just said or the last hour. I think what a lot of people don't know is that I played a lot of chess when I was younger, and I still do. And that for whatever reason, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know that I like skiing and other outdoorsy things, but I still really enjoy just playing chess or other games.
Do you have any favorite blogs or books?
I think there's no favorite book because it changes. I read one book and then I read another book and then maybe I have a favorite for a couple of months until I read another book. I think the last book that I still like a lot and think is great is the Sociopath Next Door, which is a really interesting one. So I highly recommend reading that. I think blog depends on the subject, because they're really good technical blogs. They're really good blogs about like building a business, and then about like completely unrelated, non-technical startup stuff. So can't name a favorite there.
Just a few more questions here to close out. Where can people find out more about Codeship?
Codeship.com is a good place to start. Blog.codeship.com if you want to read any technical content. You can follow us on Twitter. I think those three things are probably the most helpful.
Where can people connect with you online?
Definitely Twitter. I think we are all very, very active on Twitter. Again, try to share our thoughts and knowledge. So just asking us stuff on Twitter is super easy, and one of us will respond.
What's the Twitter handle?
At Codeship.
Okay.
And mine is my first and last name, so it's Plassnig.
Last question. Do you have any parting thoughts, advice, or suggestions for the audience?
Well, I don't know the audience. So would be very generic advice, but I think if you are listening to the podcast because you're interested in startups and building companies and building products, I think that's great, and you should just like focus on providing value to the customer and to your customer. And I think then, because that's the most important thing, then a lot of other things will follow. And everybody should always keep that in mind.
Well, thank you so much for letting me take some of your time today and coming on the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget to enter this week's book giveaway for The Innovator's Dilemma by subscribing and writing a review on iTunes. By subscribing, you'll get all my new episodes automatically fresh onto your podcast app. So make sure to do so, and it really helps me out in the rankings and with acquiring new listeners. Remember, all show notes can be found at startupbostonpodcast.com. And make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at startupbosscast. That's startupboscast. Thanks for listening, and until next time, if you have any feedback, ideas for guests, or just want to say hi, you can reach me at nick@startupbostonpodcast.com. That's NIC@startupbostonpodcast.com. Cheers.